What's up, everybody? Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin.
And we have yet another album review for you. And again, one that's probably pretty anticipated because this band has been around forever. Part of the Teutonic 3 or 4. Depends on whether or not you like Tankard. We're going to go over the latest offering from Destruction, Birth of Malice. This comes out on the 7th of March on Napalm Records. This band formed in 1983 in Germany, again part of the Teutonic 3 or 4, depending again if you like Tankard, but that includes awesome bands like Sodom and Creator. This is their 18th full-length overall, if we're counting their thrash anthems albums, which were re-recordings, and I'm just going to because I don't want to go back and count again. I've been a fan of this band for a while. I'm trying to remember the specific one. I think it was the Antichrist, maybe, but I've been listening to thrash forever, so I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. I actually went over their last album, Diabolical, which was kind of a big lineup shift. Their longtime guitarist had departed, and they brought in two new guys, and band sounded revitalized. You know, they played Maryland Death Fest in 2022, which was a lot of fun. They put on a killer set, and yeah, for those that don't know, this is just some flat-out old-school thrash metal.
So I would say something like I've never heard this band. I've never heard an album all the way through, but I've seen them live, so I've heard them, I've seen them. That's got to count for something, right?
Something.
No, they're good at what they do for sure. It's just killer, ripping old-school thrash. Very riffy, very kind of in-your-face. Speedy for at least one old dude. Got some new dudes, not as old.
Longtime bassist and vocalist Schmier is the lone original member. And I want to preface this is not to be confused with their EP called Birth of Malice, which came out last year in December, which featured one track from this, and then a bunch of covers and I think a live track too. And, I mean, God, I could baseline just say, dude, this is Destruction. If you're a longtime Destruction fan, then you already know exactly what to expect. Riffs, gallops, Schmier's very distinct, gravelly vocals. He can still hit those high notes occasionally, too. The big, kind of Slayer-ish wails. Lots and lots of just chuggy aggression, socio-political lyrics, the whole shebang. Like, it is, once again, on display here for Destruction. And once you get past the title track, which is an intro, which is odd. Not quite as odd as the first actual track, which is called Destruction. We waited, like, over 40 years to have Destruction write a song called Destruction where they announce that they are Destruction. I just think that's a little strange. But the song comes in gangbusters. Chuggy, riffy, lots of shreddy leads. Production here, pretty crisp, pretty gnarly sounding guitars, good punchy drums.
It's missing a bass. For the most part, you can't really hear the bass except in some of the isolated moments, which we'll get to here. I like the guitar tone. I just thought it was a little dry at times. But I mean, you know, what are you going to do? I don't have any complaints as far as the riffing is concerned. This thing is jam-packed full of riffs. Pretty much every song has some sort of cool riff in it. And really, it depends on what you're in the mood for. If you want an upbeat, riffy barn burner, you got No Kings, No Masters, which is pretty intense. Lots of machine gun triplets. The leads are solid. Lots of twin harmonies, which are scattered all over this record. Or if you're looking for something heavier, maybe a little bit groovier, you get Scumbag Human Race, which again is riffy. It's darker. It's got a little bit more of a Slayer vibe to it. Evil Never Sleeps, Chains of Sorrow, things like that. These are a little bit slower, more mid-tempo.
Yeah, I would describe Destruction as like very meat and potatoes, very straightforward. They've had a few deviations, I would say, in their discography. Least successful Human Cannibal being probably the biggest one. I don't think anyone ever talks about that one, or at least they don't talk about it favorably. They're kind of in the same vein as Sodom. Like, Sodom has a particular sound that I expect, though I would say Sodom is more notably like aggressive throughout. Like, that's not saying that this is like, you know, just like diet thrash where everything's like, oh no, everything's all bright and cheery and there's nothing wrong with the world for us to complain about. That's not Destruction. It's still heavy, it's still biting, but Schmier has always liked to work in like his classic heavy metal influences. There's like a bit of like more like speed metal oriented stuff. And it shows up all over here. Like there's a lot of like big melodic turns, like Evil Never Sleeps, which is, you know, like a kind of a rousing anthem, I guess. It starts off way more sinister, and then by the time you get to the chorus, like, wow, this feels really charged in a way that I wasn't expecting this to be charged.
Yeah, dark yet anthemic. Like,
yeah.
It was a weird contrast. Dark, but somehow bright.
It was like 1 second I was worshiping Satan, and the next second I was like, you know what? I'm going to go join the gym. There's no shortage of like mean-spirited, just biting, snarling attitude on here, just as there's no shortage of riffs. Like every single song in here is loaded with big, crunchy, classic, thrashy riffs. They gallop into battle. They fuck up whatever venue they're playing, but they also still deliver some melody. There's also a lot of leads. In fact, a lot of these songs will have like 2, occasionally 3 leads on them. The leads kind of have like, I would say like 2 main gears in here. You get like, of course, your classic shreddy, dive bomb, riddled, thrash leads, and a fair amount of like, I would say like neoclassical leads, like lots of melodic ones. Cyber Warfare has like some really just particularly catchy like melodic lead work on there. Kind of pairs up well with a fun riff on there too. It's like a double time D beat sort of rhythm. Like it's just driving, it's anthemic and semi-current in terms of, subject matter, which thrash bands, I don't know. I feel like the older ones kind of struggle with trying to find like things to talk about. Like, all right, what do we still like? Satan, pizza, beer. Is Reagan still in office? No? Okay. Toxic waste. Is that still a thing? But to Smear's credit, he definitely pays attention to the news. And this isn't all socio-political. Like, there's definitely some stuff that is just more like story-driven. There's definitely some stuff that relates, I would say, to like Greek mythology, I would think, in some of these. But the energy is sort of the main thing. And that's kind of always been my big appeal to Destruction. Like, they're just an energetic, fun, riffy thrash band. And coming off their last album, this is their second one with, I believe, this lineup in particular. I was kind of wondering how this would continue to gel. And with Diabolical, that album, I feel, was very straight ahead. Like, just kind of go for the throat. Every song sounded mean-spirited and ugly. It was like, yeah, this is nice. Still had its, melodies and such. It still was hooky, but it felt more direct. This album, I feel like there's this weird thing where they maybe wanted to experiment, or they were just like, I don't want to write the same album we did last time, which is totally understandable, but it doesn't always work. In fact, this album kind of meanders a little bit.
And when it goes off the beaten path, again, it's not like those riffs are bad. It transitions oddly. Songs like Scumbag Human Race, God of Gore, and Dealer of Death are all, again, very cool songs, but they transition really weird, and sometimes the transitions straight just don't fit.
Yeah, you get these like odd tonal shifts, and they frequently come at the bridge. Like when they get to the bridge, like everything up to that point is awesome. Like, Scumbag Human Race, honestly, one of my favorite songs on here. Big, stomping, mid-tempo groove. The riff itself, gnarly. It's got these little cool fucking accents on them.
Very Slayer.
Oh, yeah, very Slayer. And the transition into the bridge has these more doomy, just kind of like snarling, dark, sinister riffs. And like, all right, it's building up pretty well here. This whole song's been aggro as hell. And then you get to the bridge with the solo, and it's very bright. It's very anthemic, and it feels out of place. Like the riff itself that's playing underneath the lead is good. The lead itself is good. It just doesn't fit. Like they have a lot of good ideas, but in terms of assembly, it feels kind of off. Like this is like having a house built of like the most solid bricks, but the mortar's kind of questionable.
And then God of Gore. So the riff leading into the bridge is this really kind of gnarly triplet chug. It's awesome. And then it cuts off of nowhere and it goes to isolated drum and bass and it gets really groovy to set up the lead. And then once they get to the lead, that groove completely stops and they go back full bore into this lead section. Again, D beats and such, and you're like, why was the bridge there?
And it wasn't as though this little groovy pocket was like bad or anything. Like I felt like it could have been built on, like do like a more mid-tempo kind of aggro sort of bridge there, throw on like a shreddier, meaner lead. I mean, there's tons of moments like that on here anyway. It would have fit better. It kind of like keeps the song like encapsulated in terms of like one vibe. When you hear these like odd transitions, again, especially at the bridge, it feels almost like a section of a completely different song. And it kind of derails things. Sometimes these little derailments can be kind of fun though, like Greed, the last track, which comes in with this really cool isolated drum fill. And it kind of builds up. It's got the machine gun riffs again. Like, all right, yeah, this is biting and intense. And then you get down to the verses, and it's a swing groove.
Yeah. Now, I will say this, that swing groove is very catchy. Ever since we turned off that record, it's been stuck in my head. And I was upstairs tapping on the table, and I was upstairs just kind of bobbing my head to no music because it's stuck in there. It's really cool. It's also kind of weird because it kind of takes away from the vibe of the song, because the song, for the most part, except for those verses, is very upbeat and very in your face, but then you're like, yeah, all right. And then that's the only time that swing groove occurs is in the verses, and you're like, eh.
Yeah, and I mean, the song's about, like, human greed, corporations being complete dickholes and such. Like, a swing groove and kind of a bouncy riff to go with it, it doesn't necessarily capture the vibe there. Like, yeah, this is a rallying cry against, fucking dipshit bankers and all that shit. And then you come in with and I'm like, oh, okay. I don't feel, like, angry enough, but this is fun.
It's got the vibe of System of a Down Sugar.
Yeah, it's kind of like an odd transition, but yeah, it's kind of comparable. The same can be said for Evil Never Sleeps too. Again, comes in dark, sinister, like this big, hefty, chuggy, syncopated, like mid-tempo stomp. It feels just evil as shit. And then you get down to the chorus, which is very bright and anthemic. And it's not as though it's, like, bad. Like, honestly, I think the anthemic chorus is kind of cool. It just maybe belongs in a different song. So does the bridge, because the bridge, like, you're going from these, like, bright major chords all of a sudden, like, it's very arousing, and then when the bridge hits, when the lead hits, you're going back down to the minor chords, and it's trying to sound sinister and dark again, and it feels just kind of lost. Mm-hmm. But when the band stays, like, more on course, I guess you could say, they deliver some solid songs, like Chains of Sorrow. I really dug that song. Mm-hmm. Straightforward. It's to the point. It sticks on the groove. It sticks on the whole vibe. It feels like a complete piece there, and it doesn't kind of like deviate from the tracks just to sound, I don't know, like a little bit different. See, I don't know what like necessarily the motivation was for like some of these weird transitions on here, were they just to sound a little bit different, or, they wanted to kind of, branch out a bit. I don't know, but I know that they kind of derailed this album at points, but at the same time, I don't think this is necessarily a bad album. Mm-hmm. This is Destruction still doing Destruction. It's just a little bit clunkier than, say, maybe the last one. Like, this is, like, a pretty good middle-of-the-road thrash, I would say. Maybe a little bit above middle of the road, but I mean, it's not bad, but I feel like they've done this better before. I mean, this band's got 18 fucking albums. You're bound to release some more mid stuff.
Yeah, they can't all be zingers. Primus said it best. They can't all be zingers. And it's not bad. It's not really bad at all. It's definitely catchy. There's definitely awesome riffs in there. There's awesome harmonies. The leads are great.
They do throw in a fun cover at the end, Fast as a Shark, originally done by Accept. I love that song, and they weren't going to fuck that one up. In fact, it's so traditional, they even throw in the little record scratch at the beginning of the song, which I like details like that. But yeah, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's better than okay, I would say. It's better than okay. 3-star review incoming.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I think this is a decent album overall. It does the things that I like, about Destruction. And, it's very comparable to, their contemporaries in the Teutonic scene. It's also got stuff that reminds me of like Exodus and Testament and other bands that may or may not kind of release samey albums, but they're still kind of that good samey. I'm not, telling anyone to turn this thing off if someone puts it on. Be like, hey, that's Destruction. That sounds pretty fucking cool. Let's jam the rest of it. Yeah, it's a decent album. If you like Destruction, I'm pretty sure you're still going to probably like this one. I just think it is a little bit of a falling off from the last one. I needed a little bit more cohesion on here, but still, it's packed full of fucking riffs. It's packed full of fucking piss and vinegar, and I would 100% love to see them live again. So yeah, check this one out.
Yeah, I'm going to second that. I would like to see this band live again too. It's also a 3 for me. It's good, but in my opinion, it's not enough to like really write home about. Like, it's solid, it's speedy, it's riffy, there's, again, great leads, great harmonies, like, it's fun to listen to. But when you get down to brass tacks, aside from the songs that just have a little bit slower grooves in them, there's nothing that really sets them apart from one another. They're banger tracks. And that's really cool. But it's what this band does. They're not really deviating from that course. You'll always know the title of the song. That's cool. So if you get lost and you wonder what song you are listening to, there is a way to separate them apart.
Wait for the chorus.
Yep, wait for the chorus. The transitions are kind of weird. Again, I don't think they had everything nailed down. Like we were talking upstairs, we're not sure if they're trying to experiment or if they're trying to make this record just sound different from the last record so you don't redo the same thing over and over again. And when you're 18 albums in, I get that. I totally get that. But yeah, nonetheless, it's pretty good. If you like this band before, you'll probably still like this band. Also, it reminds me of like Slayer, Maiden, Priest, Exodus, some old school Metallica, stuff like that. If you like that stuff, you're going to like this record. Check it out.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships that are only 99 cents, and we do a members-only live stream as our lone perk, which we will probably be doing, I would say, like Wednesday, and that'll probably be like a little bit later. We'll let you know. But memberships are the main way to support the channel now. We still have our store, thrallsofmetal.com, which is linked down below in the video description. But if you would like to join this illustrious channel, I'm not selling it very well. But you can. There's a button down there, and you can just tap at it and just say, hey, let me in, because I got 99 cents to give away.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you did such a good job at selling us.
I wouldn't join me now.
If that didn't sell you, let me tell you what we're all about here. Album reviews, discography rankings. We got At the Gates coming up next, which is going to be sweet. Tons of discussion forums, live streams, members only live streams, because remember, that's a perk. And you get a booger troll. I mean, come on now. Let's see. States of Metal. Is it metal? Is it not metal? A bunch of different discussion topics. We got another one in the works coming up here that I think is going to be pretty fun. Thank you guys for sticking around. Thank you guys for those that have joined. Really, once again, if you're interested in joining, if that sounds really cool to you, you should push that button. But even if you don't, we're thankful you're here. We appreciate all of our fans, all the friends we've made along the way. This channel has become pretty awesome, and it's because of you guys, so thank you.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule. Tons of content coming your way. So one more big thank you, because you guys fucking rule, and we will catch you later.